in terms of the slave trade. And then out of it, we only have 3 castles. The rest are all forts in West Africa. And the amazing thing is that the 3 castles that we have in West Africa can be seen or located in Ghana. The rest are all forts in West Africa. Looking at the 3 castles that we have in Ghana, we are looking at Elmina Castle, probably known by that name, but it is St. George's Castle, built by the Portuguese. The second one is that of the Christianborg Castle in Accra or Osu, built by the Danish or the Danes. And last one is the Cape Coast Castle, built by the British. The rest are all forts in West Africa. But the 3 castles that we have in the country of Ghana, this one happens to be the biggest, the largest, and the first in terms of the slave trade. So since we are here, we'll be talking more about this one. So Elmina Castle, or St. George's Castle, was built by the Portuguese in 1482. Before the building of this castle in 1482, we are looking at the earlier coming of the Portuguese in 1471. You know, at a point in time when the Portuguese were here in 1471, they happened to be using their ship as a lodging place in terms of trading with our people there. So we are talking about the exchange of gold, ivory, spices, and other items. But what happened was that the exchange of gold at that time, we're talking about the alluvial gold, happened to be more here. And in so doing, the Portuguese used the opportunity of more gold here to name this place to be Elmina. Elmina is a Portuguese language that simply means the mine. But the word was mispronounced, and as a result of it, we had Elmina. And that has been the name of the town since. But the indigenous name of this town is Anumansan. Anumansan is a native dialect that simply means woman and sun, inexhaustible water. But for now, we are talking about the name of this town to be the mispronounced word Elmina. So, the zeal for more gold now motivated their leader to come down with some soldiers to acquire a piece of land from the chief called Elmina and San I to build the castle. But before that, there was an issue with it. The issue is that the chosen site by the Portuguese, this place, is a rocky place and still a rocky place. And as a result of it, the natives took this rocky place to be a sacred place. And in so doing, they tried their best to forbid the chief not to give the land to the Portuguese to build the castle. But no, in those days, the chief happens to be the custodian of the land. Anything that he says is final. And I also do say that he's supposed to be representing Ghana because of Western education. If someone does something and you don't like it, no matter who the person is, you can't take the person to court. But in those days, it wasn't so. So the chief released the land to the Portuguese to build the castle. And as a result of it, the castle was built purposely to trade and then also to spread Christianity. So at a point in time, all the rooms that we have down here happens to be a warehouse in terms of their trading. And right there is the church in terms of the spreading of Christianity. But later on in 1600 was when the Portuguese now shifted their attention to slave trade. So starting the slave trade, all the warehouses right here were now converted to be a slave dungeon. So they started with 1,000 slaves. The 1,000 slaves, out of it, 600 were men, 400 were women. And don't forget, when we're talking about the 400 women and out of the 600 women, the number was more. We're looking at the kids or the children who were found in Daniel were not even counted and other things. And in so doing, the number increased from there. What happened was that the Portuguese starting the slave trade here. Later on, more Europeans also started coming to Africa to explore. We are talking about the Dutch, the Germans, the Swedish, the Danes, the French, and other Europeans. But what happened was that the Dutch happened to be the second Europeans who also settled so closer to where the Portuguese were. The Dutch settled in a place called Mori. Mori is about 20 kilometers heading towards Greater Accra. They built a fort over there called Fort Nassau. But through traveling, the Dutch also came here. And when they got in here, they realized that the Portuguese were already here. And in so doing, human perception, the Dutch now became so jealous that they need to fight against the Portuguese here to take over the castle from them. And as a result of it, the castle was being attacked by the Dutch twice with the mindset of taking over the castle from them. But they couldn't. We had a whole lot of reasons why the Dutch could not defeat the Portuguese here. But the major one is that when the Portuguese were here, they had a mindset that it is only the Europeans who can fight against them. And for the Europeans will come, they will definitely come from the seaside. We are looking at the means of transportation at that time. And in so doing, if you look at the structure of the castle, the front view of the castle lie on the seaside, while the back view is in town. So more of the soldiers of the forties now focus more of their attention at the seaside than the back view. And that was exactly the same place that the Dutch used to attack the castle. And since they couldn't, on the third time of the Dutch, they were being helped by the natives. The natives helped the Dutch to fight against the Portuguese with the mindset that helping them, they will get their savior. And in so doing, in 1637, there were two attacks that was made by the Dutch. One from the seaside, the one from the land side. The land side was where the natives had to carry the weapons to the Dutch to be there to fight against the Portuguese. So while the Portuguese were focusing more of their attention at the seaside, they were being defeated from the land side. So the same year, 1637, the Dutch took over the castle. And when the Dutch took over the castle, it was the mindset of the natives that since they helped them, they've gotten their savior. No more human trade. But not knowing, that was a big deception. When the Dutch took over the castle, they were even the worst. They rather had to expand the dungeons here for more slaves. Now built forts inland at where they used to fight against the Portuguese for their soldiers to ride there to protect the castle. Then they did the slave trade here for a long time until 1860 to 1870. That was when there was a stopping of the slave trade. And when that happened, the Dutch now realized the castle has no use to them. And in so doing, this castle was now sold to the English or the British in 1872. So when the British took over the castle, because there was no more slave trade, they also used this castle to be the sub-administrative center in terms of colonization of the country. But this will not tell us that the British did not take part in the slave trade. They took part, but they built the Cape Coast Castle purposely for slavery. And when they were here, it was over. So using this castle for the sub-administrative center, on the 6th of March, 1957 was when we Ghanaians also got our independence. As a result of it, we also asked the British to leave the place. So if you look at the whole scenario, Portuguese were the first to be here. They spent 155 years, using about 100 years mainly for slave trade. Then the Dutch happened to be the second Europeans who took over the castle. Also spent 235 years, used about 200 years plus, mainly for slave trade. And the British were here spent 85 years in terms of the administrative purposes. But when we Ghanaians took over the castle, recently 6th of March 2021 happens to be our 64 years. And I have the hope that with time, we will also catch up the number of years that the Europeans were here. But the castle that you see standing is now 539 years. We are still counting it. 1979 was when UNESCO took this place to be the World Heritage Site. That is how we are here. So this is a short summary of the castle. We are going to start the main job from the female section through walking for the next 40 minutes. So that will be part of the exercise, please. So please.
Okay, very fantastic story. Some of the stories that we've had in time past that the leaders, the community leaders,
Right.
kings, the chiefs, were also fans of slavery.
Right.
Slavery.
Right.
So what have you got to say?
For sure. Now, what happened is that anytime this question is being asked from me, I always do say it is manipulation. The last time I was talking to one of the African Americans, he is popularly known, forgotten the name. I was saying something about manipulation and he just stood there. Can you justify your manipulation? And I was like, yeah, why not? Now, what happened is that we are looking at a history not being static, it is dynamic, right? So you need to look at the other side of it before you come out with the fact. What happened is that when I'm saying about, or when I'm talking about the manipulation, now at the earlier stage, we are looking at the indigenous or the native who happen to be in their own form of slavery, right? I'm starting from that point, so that I'll come to your question. What happened is that what I'm saying about our own slavery, we are not looking at the slavery of maybe, let me put it this way, the mental slavery. No, we are looking at the slavery in the form that when you owe somebody that you are not able to pay the debt of that person, right? Your child or any relative of yours is allowed to go and stay with the person that is being owed to serve the person. So probably we're talking about servant slavery, right? So you'll be serving the person so the debt happens to be over. But with this point of it, the person serving you, or let me say the slave or the servant slave serving you, has the right for education, the right for marriage, the right, everything right, the person has it. The only difference is that it's working for you to pay a debt. You get a point of it. Now, the other aspect is that looking at the supplying of the slavery, when we're talking about the involvement of the chiefs and other people, is that the manipulation aspect is that we are looking at the Europeans in terms of the introduction of the weapons or the guns at a point. Right. Now, what happened is that when we're talking about the slavery, it's not purposely you going to the town, go and capture somebody. No. When I come to you and I want to capture, we'll definitely fight with you, right? But when I come with a weapon or any tool to attack you, definitely you come down to me, right? Now, we are looking at the tribal war as a means of getting slavery. And when we're talking about the tribal war, what made the tribal war is through the weapons, the guns. So the introduction of the guns by the Europeans, when they bring the guns to you, right, they are the same people supplying the weapon, the ammunition, right? So they give you the gun to fight against each other. And the question is, when the ammunition or the bullets of the gun finish, why are you going to get it? It is the same European person that you come to and then get the ammunition. And in so doing, anything that he says to you to do it, you will do it. Because there's a demand of something from that European person. Supplying the weapons to fight against each other, capturing them, bringing them. And the other way too, we are looking at the beggars in terms of the middlemen buying from the hinterlands, bringing them. That was fighting. But that's the main purpose of the money. You get a point? Right. So any questions so far? All right. So if there's no question, we heading towards the female dungeon. We continue from here, please. So please, you're welcome. Let's go with it. Let's go with it. I hope mommy will do it, right? We just from this side over here to there's only steps up. It's fine.
I made it.
You made it. I know you made it.
I did.
I know. All right, so please let's come. That is one of it, for sure.
That's settled in a place called Maureen. Maureen is about 20 kilometers heading towards Greater Accra.
Right. Now, as I said earlier, we are looking at the 1,000 slavery, and out of it 400 happens to be women. So the 400 women were divided to be in the room that we have right here. So this side is the female dungeon. So we're going to have a look at one of the rooms with the original floor. Then we'll move on from there. So let's come back. That's settled in a place called Maureen. Maureen is 20 kilometers So this side happens to be the largest place for the ladies. We are looking at 150 women who were held in here at that time. The 150 women who were held in here, that is the original floor that is left on. Now, let's look at some of the situations that happened here while they were here. With the exception of ventilation coming from the doors that we have over there, the other way around for ventilation to right in here is from the small boat that we have over there. Now, right there leads to a place where they kept their weapons. Weapons to be the guns, the gunpowder, and other items. But with that of the gunpowder, it is poison for toilet. So when they are leaking, they come right here. Then this is where we have the ladies held in here. As a result of it, we are looking at some of them who lost their lives before the ship even arrived in 3 months' time. And not only that, we are looking at the other aspect of human nature in terms of their eating, vomiting, feces. The ladies too, we are talking about menstruation that is being done every month. All these things happen here while we are here. As a result of it, we are talking about the outbreak of diseases and other things. In so doing, when we are talking about the history of the slave trade, a lot of people died than those who survived. So I say here that when those who died should be resting in Please hold your phone tight, please. And it's in your pocket to make sure you hold it tight. So what we have right here, this is rainwater. The same thing applies to the other one over there. Now what happened was that there was a construction of tunnels up there. When it rains, the water will come in. But for now, we have also disconnected because of the overflow. Now what happened was that when the Portuguese were here, this happened to be the source of water in terms of their cooking, washing, drinking, and other things. But when the Dutch took over the castle, they had a different mindset. Their mindset was that since they fought against the Portuguese enemies, and in so doing, some of the items which might be poisoned, Dutch never used the water here. Rather created this as what we have the church. You just want to be watching the ladies when we're being selected for sexual abuse or rape. As a result of it, right there is where the governor will stand in terms of the selection of the ladies. Happens to be there, some of the gates were open for the ladies to come outside. That is selection from the trouble. And when they were being selected, the ladies were being washed with the so clean poison water that they could to use this water to wash the ladies. Afterwards, they took them to the governor's bedroom through a secret door or a trap door. Let's have a look at the secret door right here. Now, right here is the secret door, the trap door, where the selected ladies were taken up to the governor's bedroom. So what happened was that some of the ladies were found pregnant here. Those who got pregnant, they had a place where they kept them that is in town, a stone wall in town, until they give birth. What happened is that when they deliver, they have some specific years. Within that year that they have to separate the kids from the mothers, brought them to the castle to be trained in terms of education. What happened is that with the education aspect, we are looking at the formal education, that is how to read and how to write, that the kids were practicing in this castle. Those kids are being called mulattoes or the mixed race kids. So this is the reason why we have a lot of Europeans in the country of Ghana. Precisely we're talking about Johnson, Compson, and so many other names. These are the reasons why. Now in mothers, we are looking at two aspects. Those who were classified to the people who were used as domestic slaves, and those who were sent back to Bangladesh and sold as slaves. Please listen. Now, what we have right here, there is a metal body cannonball. that was used to punish the ladies who refused to go to the government bedroom when it comes to sexual abuse or the rape. At the same time, to use as an ammunition for the guns that we have up there when we go out, we will see one of them. Now, what happened was that those who refused to go to the government's bedroom when it comes to sexual abuse, at that time, there was a chain on top of it that was used to chain wherever it is fit to be chained. It could be the hand, the neck, or the leg. And it's quite heavy, so you can't go anywhere. And we are looking at the condition of raining, shining, and other situations. And in so doing, they have to go through all these things. And as a result, some also do go unconscious and lose their lives right in here. Now, I also did the research, and I came out to the point that when we are looking at the slaves held in here, not all of them are of the same ethnic group or tribe. We are looking at the capture of the slavery beyond the borders of the country. It could be Togo, Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, all held in here at the same time. In terms of communication, there was a problem with it. The soldiers were also punishing them to serve as a lesson for it. And in so doing, as I said earlier, when we are talking about the history of the slave trade, more people died than those who survived. I also still say here that those who died should rest in perfect peace. Now, what we have right here, these are not part of the slave trade. But the other way around, it also symbolizes the slavery. What happened was that some slaves came in here to do their work here. It's a form of exhibition. That was 2015, thereabouts. These were anthropology students. They were trying to look at the situation that happened here during the slave trade. And in so doing, the students who were held in here, these are the materials that was used to cover them because they were half naked. And the chains right here were used to chain their legs to restrict their movement here. They had a way of locking the door. They started 6 in the evening to the next day 6 in the morning. And when we came up the next day, here was mixed up in terms of the human nature that is urinating, spitting around. Some had to even feed themselves right in here. These were all part of the program that they were doing. Now, when we came up the next day, because of the work that we do, we have to make sure this place is clean. The cleaners came here to wash everything away. But there was one amazing thing that we observed. 3 days getting to 1 week, the scent of what they did here was still here. So this was to give us the idea about how police went through with the same situation without being cleaned for more than 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and beyond. I also still say here that Minnesota should rest in perfect peace. Now let's look at some of the original metals that was brought in at the time. Now, right here, these are some of the original metal bars that was used. Because most of them are damaged, that's why we have the wooden ones right here to replace them. Now there's a question for you. My question is that we are in the 21st century, and this happens to the thickness or the size of it now. So my question is, what was the original size at the time that it was brought in from the 14th to the 16th century? Please listen. Now, right here is the entrance that leads to the place called the door, the gate of no return. So, with this point, it is purposely meant for the lady held in there being bought by the merchants to walk down to the ship to be taken to the new world. So, what happened was that at that time, there were some steps right in here for us to use to have a look at the door of no return. But as we talk now, the steps is no more. So, we are going to use where the men were being held. We have a look at the door of no return. Please come.
This leads to the ocean?
Yeah, this is the ocean, please.
Wow.
Yes.
That's how you find the way. After you do, you know,
Yes, you got to mind that.
No, I can make it.
You can forward.
I saw you like over there. No, sorry.
I wish you see their part too. I wish. Can I help you? I wish you see the place. I wish. Yes.
Maybe I would talk. Maybe. Which one?
Right. Now, before we have a look at the door of no return, right here happens to be the room that was used in terms of the grinding of the slaves. What happened was this. The merchant buying the slaves had to identify them before they were taken to the new world or giving them names. As a result of it, they were being branded with hot metal and gadgets when they were taken to the new world. Right here is where the branding went on. Then forget, as the branding was going on, through the shot, the pain, some also lost their life right here. So you can have a quick look, then we'll move on.
They used to have their own like signature.
For sure, yes.
So everyone would know like
For sure.
this one belongs to this
Yeah, yes, for
person.
sure. There you come. Yeah, the man was hard. But now you don't know it's now. That's how you see the people done. Don't forget at that time it wasn't so. Right, it wasn't so at that time. Now, before we go in there is one step down, just a step down, one step. So I advise you to use your flashlight. One step down, one step. A step down. One step down. One step, only one step. When we keep coming, one step, that's fine. One step, you make it, it's fine. Yes, it's fine. Just one step, please. A step down. One step down. Mommy, please wait for me. Yes. One step down, please. Yeah. One step, please. A step down. Right, so as I said earlier on, right here was where the ladies were coming down. At that time, this happened to the step that was there at that time. But now we have the drainage to replace it. Behind is where the men also came through. They were all chained. Once they went through the small hole, the small door right there. We're going to have a look at the plate. But before we go in there, I'm going to advise you to take 6 or 7 steps before you can raise up your head. We have a look at the door of no return. So, mommy, let's try. Mommy can make it. You can make it. Yes, keep coming. Yes, mommy is okay now. It's okay. It's fine. Wow.
This is the door. Don't repent.
Keep coming, don't raise your head. Please keep coming, do not raise your head, please. Keep coming. That is fine. Right. So what happened is that right here is the door or the gate of no return. The fortunate thing is that we are going to return back. Now what happened was that at a point in time, the sea right there happened to be closer to the castle. But by nature, it associated. So they were using their small boat to be carrying the slaves to the big ship. Now let's look at some of the situations that happened here whilst they were taking them to the new world. Now what happened was that The slaves were being bought by the merchants, as I said earlier, in terms of identification through the branding. With the other aspect, we are looking at a merchant buying one slave was giving more than one. The reason behind is that by the time we get a new one, some will die, some will survive. They have to give them more than the number required. Now, the situation right here, it makes the ship overloaded. So on their way going, if there were any shortage of food or anything happening to the ship, they have to make sure they take some of the slaves, just throw them into the sea to make sure they can move on. And another situation is that the slaves who were taken to the new world were being chained. The chaining could be the hand, the neck, or the leg. So on their way going, the more they are stung, the more the ship capsizes. The more the ship capsizes, the more there is a twist of that metal chain on the hand, the neck, or the leg. And then don't forget, this is a skin. It is so soft that anything twisted in the metal form, there will be an issue with it. And not forget about the sea breeze when it comes to metal getting rusted. So this metal gets rusted on the skin, whilst at the same time it gets twisted. When they get to the new world and they realize you are so weak, so deformed that you can't even work on the plantation farm, and a whole lot of it, they have to leave you behind. As a result of leaving you behind, we are talking about starvation to death. Wild animals like scorpions, snakes, and that thing, that was also killing some of them. And a whole lot of people also committed suicide because of what they went through. And in so doing, as I said earlier, when we are talking about the history of the slave trade, a lot of people died than those who survived. So I also still say that those who died should rest in perfect peace. I'm going to welcome you to the door of return with a caution once again. You have to watch your head, please. Please come.
So that's the original
That is the
size.
original size of
It's
it.
so small.
For sure.
So that means the people going through were extremely slim.
No, right, I'll take it that way. I'll take it that way. But what happened is that no matter your stature, by the time you go through here for 3 months, in terms of the feeding or the situation that I went through, you were able to fit in there. And they also
Yes, so you
size.
grow it.
Yeah.
So you grow it.
Right.
You reduce your.
For sure. So please watch out, please. Please watch out. Mommy, I'm waiting for you. That's fine. I'm waiting for mommy. Keep coming. That's fine. Mommy, you are done.
Okay.
You are okay now. That is a huge question that we need to answer. We're going up. We're going up. All right, so please let's. Now, what happened is that, with the exception of all the rooms that we have down here, right there is the church for the Portuguese. What happened was that when the Portuguese were here, they happened to be Catholic. But the Dutch taking over the castle, they were Protestants. So they used the church of the Portuguese, that is a Catholic church, to be their slave market, where they were auctioning the slaves right in there. But when we Ghanaians took over the castle because of the nature of tourism, it is now used as a museum. That's why we allow you to have a look at that place. Now let's see something right here. What we have here is written in Old Dutch language. It is written in the memory of a governor who died and was buried right here. The name of the governor is Tet. And this man Tet happens to be the last Director General of the West Indies Company. Then he came from Zealand. Currently, we are talking about Zealand to be Holland or Netherlands. So what happened was that this man Tet happens to be responsible in terms of taking care over the north and south coast of Africa. He first came here, that was on 16th of January 1758, and died on 12th March the same year 1758, when he happens to be 41 years old. When he died here, there was a pastor here, his name is E. Andresen. He knew this man dead, so he wrote a tribute about him to be a good man and then God-fearing at the time of slave trade. We are going to compare the two cells or the prisons right there, and then don't forget, as part of the comparison, the door will be closed, please. So please, let's go inside. Right. So please, we are trying to compare the prisons right here. So with this side, this is the European prison. With that of the European prison, we are looking at some of the European soldiers who misbehaved in terms of being drunk and a whole lot of it. So anybody who was found culprit was brought in here to be punished. But right here, we are looking at the punishment being over, they have to release you. And I'm sure you're getting some fresh air here, right?
So this is where they have their own people.
Yes.
That misbehave.
Yes.
So this one, yeah, this one has more ventilation.
Yes. So let's go inside. Please go inside.
She said go inside.
This one, I don't think you would die. Nothing.
Right. So right here is the condemned prison. Without of the condemned prison, we are looking at the slaves. Now we call them the freedom fighters. Those who were fighting for their freedom to get out. So we're talking about the rebellion. So those who rebelled, the leaders among them were being captured, brought in here to be killed. So right in there, because it was a daily basis, we can get more than 20, 30 people at the same time. No food, no water, starvation to death. The issue too is that by nature, we all cannot die at the same time. So if by chance one person is dead, the rest will look on their dead colleague also waiting for their time to die. And because everybody right here, we're all struggling to survive, you can see some of the squatting hands on the walls. But also still say here that may soon die to rest in perfect peace. Peace come. Right, so we're going up and then have a look at the cabinet's bedroom, please. But before we do that, the slime walls that we have here, these are buttresses that is used to support the walls of the castle. What happened was that the Portuguese being here, during the attack of the Dutch, some of the portion of the castle became so weak. So to strengthen the walls of the castle, the Dutch added these buttresses to it to support it. But in 1948, here was used as a police training school. Being the police training school, when the British were here, so they added these metals here for their soldiers or the policemen to use for their training. That is to climb up. Yes. So we're going up and have a look at the cabinet bedroom. Let's come to this.
him as a governor. What he did was, and the sad thing is that they're supposed to be Christians. You know, you're supposed to love God.
Right.
Be a follower of Jesus, but you commit this type of atrocities.
For sure.
In the U.S., they just discovered an original slave Bible, and in it, many of the books in the Bible have been removed.
Right.
It's like the story of Moses freeing the people from Egypt. They removed it because they don't want Africans to know that, oh, there was a time that slaves were free.
Right.
You know?
Come here.
It feels good here, though.
For sure.
So that's why he wants this spot.
We are here. Now, at a point in time, this place happened to be one of the sleeping rooms for the European soldiers. But right now it's a bookshop. So we have a look around the movement. But before that, the tour that we are going through, because of the time, we cannot go through everything. And as a result of it, we also have some books that talks into details about the slavery, how it started, how they got the slaves, and the whole stuff of history. So if you want some as a souvenir, you can get some. Now, there is the slavery indigenous. This talks into details about the slave trade. Then this one also talks about the history of this castle and that of Cape Coast Castle. Then this one also gives you a perspective of what happened on the ship while they were taking them to the New World. So if you want some as a souvenir, you can get some as a souvenir. Whilst you have to have a quick look around, they'll move on, please.
What's the price? 6 CDs?
6 CDs. They are pen or they are just shape of pen?
You put the pen inside. What are some of the symbols?
What's the price of this?
What's the symbol?
This is sample. You have to go back for it.
Okay. And what, this is just regular.
And then this one is the map. This is the map of Africa, right? Yes, the African map. That's it. More is a sarcophagus and another of the human head.
$6.
It was a breeze, beautiful breeze. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the old.
Is it the old city or?
No, it's the new one. Like it's been used severally, that's why I leave that one.
Yeah?
What's that?
Different from the regular
Oh,
currency.
what is this? The 1 CD?
2 cities.
Oh, these are CDs.
I'm not saying it's I'm not saying it's
Is this one the
Are we through? about it?
2 cities each.